She was already singing when the dust rose. Bare feet slapped against the dry earth as traders rushed past her wooden chair, baskets knocking into one another, voices clashing like metal, goats bleating, children crying, but her voice cut through everything like a blade dipped in honey. Omoze leaned forward, eyes closed, palms open as if holding something only she could feel, and the note she released soared so high that even the birds resting on the market roof startled into flight. "Oh, listen to that," a woman shouted, dropping her pepper basket. Omoze did not stop. She never stopped once the song took hold of her. Her voice roared and curved, soft and loud at the same time, carrying pain and sweetness together, the kind of sound that made people forget where they were. She sang of the morning sun. She sang of hunger. She sang of laughter she had never owned and love she had never been given. Her voice traveled beyond the crowded stalls, beyond the shouting traders, beyond the noise of bargaining, stretching itself into the far corners of the market like a living thing searching for ears. Coins clinked into the calabash at her feet, but she did not open her eyes. She sang because she had to. She sang because silence had always hurt her more than hunger. Long before that afternoon, before the crowd, before the coins, before the whispers that would soon change her life, Omoze had learned that singing was the only thing that never abandoned her. She was barely 3 months old when her mother's breath faded away like a candle starved of air. She never knew the warmth of that woman's arms, never knew her scent, never heard her lullabies. Her father was already gone before she arrived, a name spoken in hushed tones by strangers who pitied her. By the time she could crawl, she belonged to an orphanage that smelled of boiled rice, detergent, and resignation. But even there, where cries filled the night and hunger was a familiar companion, Omoze sang. As a toddler, she hummed instead of crying. As a child, she sang while sweeping the compound. As a teenager, she sang while washing clothes until her fingers wrinkled. Singing was not something she learned. It was something that lived inside her, like breathing. "Will you ever keep quiet?" one of the caretakers used to snap, exhaustion sharpening her voice. Omoze would look up, startled, then smile softly. "I'm sorry, Mama. I didn't know I was singing." And it was the truth. Music poured out of her the way tears poured out of others. So when she left the orphanage with nothing but a small bag of clothes and a heart full of hope, the market became her stage. It was loud, yes. Cruel, sometimes. But it was alive. And people paid her, not because she begged, but because her voice begged for her. That afternoon, as the market swirled with bodies and noise, fate slipped quietly between the stalls. The Queen of Ujogba Kingdom had arrived. Queen Itohon did not move like other women. Even in simple wrappers and coral beads, authority clung to her like perfume. Her maid struggled to keep pace as she inspected fabrics, tasted spices, and nodded at greetings from kneeling traders. The upcoming festival weighed heavily on her mind. It was the biggest celebration of the year, and dignitaries from far and wide, including wealthy kings and billionaires, were expected to attend. Everything had to be perfect. She was about to ask the price of a richly dyed cloth when the sound reached her. The queen froze. Her fingers tightened around the fabric. "What is that?" she asked slowly. The maid beside her blinked. "Your Majesty." "That voice," the queen said, lifting her chin. "Do you hear it?" The maid listened, confused at first. Then her eyes widened. I have never heard anything like it." Neither had the queen. The song rose again, stronger now, and something stirred painfully in Queen Itohan's chest. It was not just beautiful, it was honest. Raw. Alive. "Find her," the queen said, her voice firm. "Whoever owns that voice, I must see her." They moved through the market, following the sound as it grew clearer, louder, closer. Traders parted for them. Whispers followed. "Who is she? Why is the queen walking like that? Is someone in trouble?" Then they saw her. A young woman sat on a low wooden chair, eyes closed, head tilted back slightly, as if singing to the sky itself. Her clothes were simple. Her hair was neatly braided without ornament. Her skin glowed dark and smooth under the sun, untouched by powder or paint. She sang with her whole body, hands trembling, chest rising sharply with each breath. And when she finished, silence fell. For one heartbeat. Then the market erupted. Clapping. Shouting. Cheers. Coins rained down at her feet as people rushed forward, moved beyond reason. Sing again. Bless you, my daughter. Take this, take more. Omoze opened her eyes, startled by the sudden noise, her breath still uneven. She stood slowly, bowing her head in gratitude. Thank you, she said softly. Thank you so much. The queen watched her closely. She saw the way people leaned toward the girl as if pulled by an invisible thread. She saw the humility in her movements, the disbelief in her eyes, as though she herself could not understand the power she wielded. Queen Itohon stepped forward. The crowd fell silent again. What is your name? The queen asked. Omoze swallowed hard. She recognized royalty when she saw it. Her knees trembled. My name is Omoze, Your Majesty. You sing as though your soul has known both heaven and fire, the queen said. Who trained you? No one, Your Majesty. The queen's brow creased. Then who taught you? Omoze shook her head. Life. Something passed between them then, an understanding deeper than words. I want you to sing at the palace, the queen said. At the upcoming festival. Omoze gasped. The palace. She had never even stood near its gates. I don't know if I am worthy, Your Majesty. Queen Itohon smiled slightly. You are more than worthy. The crowd buzzed. Omoze bowed deeply, her heart racing so fast she thought it might burst. Thank you, Your Majesty. As the queen turned to leave, her maid leaned closer. She is special. Queen Itohon nodded. Yes. And the world is about to find out. The day of the festival arrived like a drumbeat. The palace shimmered with color and gold. Guests arrived in convoys of luxury cars, laughter spilling from them like excess wine. Kings, queens, billionaires, politicians, all gathered under one sky. King Omoze stood tall beside his queen, his presence commanding, his wealth legendary. He had built empires, broken ceilings, and earned respect far beyond the kingdom's borders. His friends were men who moved markets with phone calls. Music filled the air, but it was polished, rehearsed, predictable. Until Omoze stepped forward. She wore a simple traditional outfit, carefully washed and pressed. No jewelry beyond modest earrings. No makeup. Just herself. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Who is that? She looks ordinary. She must be the market girl. Then she sang. The first note silenced everything. Even King Omoze straightened. Her voice wrapped around the audience, squeezing hearts, loosening tears. Conversations died. Glasses paused midair. Breath was forgotten. A billionaire seated near the front leaned forward slowly, eyes narrowing with interest. Who is she? He murmured. As the song ended, the applause was thunderous. King Omoze stood. Magnificent, he declared. Beside him, the billionaire smiled. I want her, he said quietly. Not like that, he added quickly when his friends laughed. I want her voice. She will sing at my 40th birthday. His name was Itiosa. And without knowing it, Omoze had just stepped onto a path that would never let her return to who she once was. When the night ended, rewards were given, praises sung, and invitations extended. As Omoze bowed and thanked them all, her heart pounded with fear and excitement. This was only the beginning. And beginnings, she would soon learn, were the most dangerous part of any story. The night after the festival refused to let Omoze sleep. She lay on the thin mat in her small rented room, staring at the cracked ceiling as if it might answer the questions screaming inside her head. The echoes of applause still rang in her ears, louder than the frogs outside, louder than the distant hum of the night market winding down. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the palace lights, the rich fabrics, the faces frozen in awe as her voice claimed them. "This is not my life," she whispered to herself. But her heart betrayed her. It beat with excitement, with fear, with a strange, unfamiliar hope. She sat up suddenly and laughed with a small, shaky sound. "Omoze," she said aloud, shaking her head, "what is happening to you?" She had always sung to survive. To eat. To feel less alone. She had never sung to be seen. Yet now, she had been seen by kings. By billionaires. By one man whose eyes had followed her long after the applause died. Itiosa. She did not know why his name settled in her chest like unfinished music. Days passed, and the market no longer felt the same. When Omoze sang, people gathered faster. Some whispered her name with reverence now. Others stared openly, as if waiting for her to transform before their eyes. She sang at the palace, a trader told a customer proudly, as if Omoze belonged to them all. Invitations came, quietly at first, then insistently. Private events. Small gatherings. Big houses with gates taller than her dreams. Each time, Omoze wore her simple clothes, bowed politely, and sang with the same honesty that had always been her shield. But something changed inside her. Each stage made her braver. Each applause made her more afraid. Then the call came. "Omoze," a deep voice said on the phone, smooth and confident. "Yes. This is Itiosa." Her breath caught. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." No, sir," she said quickly. He chuckled. "Please. Just Itiosa. I'm calling to remind you about my birthday." "As if I could forget," she replied before she could stop herself. There was a pause. Then laughter, warm, genuine. "I like you," he said. "You speak without fear." She swallowed. "I only speak the truth." "Then tell me," he said softly, "are you ready?" She looked around her small room. The peeling walls. The empty corner where hunger sometimes sat beside her. "I have always been ready," she said. The night of Itiosa's 40th birthday was nothing like the palace festival. It was grander. Lights danced like stars. The venue pulsed with wealth and power. Guests wore clothes that cost more than Omoze had ever earned in her life. She stood backstage, fingers clenched, heart hammering. "Are you nervous?" a coordinator asked. Omoze nodded. "Very." "Good," the woman said. "That means you care." When Itiosa spotted her, everything else faded. He abandoned his guest, his glass of champagne forgotten, and crossed the room with purpose. "You came," he said, eyes bright. "I said I would." He studied her, taking in her simplicity, her calm. "Did you compose the song?" She nodded. "It has your name in it." Something flickered in his eyes then, something deeper than admiration. "I can't wait," he said quietly. When her name was announced, the room buzzed with curiosity. She walked onto the stage slowly, every step measured, every breath counted. Then she sang. She sang of time and gratitude. Of journeys and growth. Of a man who had reached 40 and still dared to dream. She wove Itiosa's name into the melody like a blessing. The crowd was undone. They rose to their feet before she finished. "Omoze. Omoze. Omoze." The chant shook her. She bowed, tears burning her eyes. Backstage, Itiosa found her standing alone, hands trembling. "What have you done to me?" he asked. She looked up, startled. "Sir. I can't stop thinking about you," he said, voice low. "Your voice follows me. Even in silence." Her heart skipped painfully. I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything," he replied. "Just listen." He told her about his childhood. About money that had not always been there. About loneliness hidden behind success. He spoke as if she were the only person in the world. For the first time, Omoze felt something dangerous bloom inside her. Months passed. They talked. They laughed. They argued. They learned each other's silences. Itiosa did not rush her. He respected her simplicity, her boundaries, her fear. One evening, as the sun bled into the horizon, he took her hand. Omoze, he said, I love you. She trembled. I have nothing, she whispered. He smiled. Then we will build together. Love came quietly, then all at once. 6 months later, the wedding silenced the same market that had once ignored her. People cried openly as Omoze walked past in elegant attire, her eyes still humble, her smile still soft. She sang at her own wedding. Not for money. Not for survival. But for joy. As Itiosa watched her, tears slipping freely down his face, he knew he had not just married a woman. He had married a miracle. Omoze, the village singer, was no longer singing to be heard. She was singing because the world was finally listening. And somewhere, deep in her heart, the little orphan girl smiled, because she had found pleasure, power, and purpose in what she loved most. Her voice. The morning after the wedding did not arrive gently. It came with the sound of birds settling on tall glass windows, with sunlight spilling across silk curtains, with the silence so expansive it almost scared Omoze awake. She opened her eyes slowly, expecting to see the familiar cracks in the ceiling, the faint stains of rainwater, the shadows of poverty she had always known. Instead, she saw chandeliers. For a long moment, she did not move. Her heart began to race, not with excitement, but with fear. This is real, she whispered. Beside her, Itiosa stirred and turned, his arm instinctively finding her waist as if he had done it all his life. His voice was thick with sleep when he spoke. Good morning, my wife. The word hit her like a wave. My wife? She turned to face him, searching his eyes for something, doubt, regret, second thoughts, but she found only warmth. You are awake already, he asked, smiling. I was afraid, she admitted softly. Of what? That when I open my eyes, I will be back in my small room. That this life will disappear. Itiosa sat up and cupped her face gently. Then let me make you a promise, he said. This life will not take your voice from you. And your voice will not take you away from who you are. She nodded, tears gathering. That morning, Omoze did not sing. She listened. She listened to the house staff moving respectfully. She listened to the city waking up beyond the gates. She listened to her own heart adjusting to a new rhythm. Marriage did not change her voice. But it changed her reach. Very quickly, the world began to pull at her. Music producers came quietly at first, cautious, unsure whether the billionaire's wife was truly serious about singing. But when she sang for them, unfiltered, unpolished, raw, they left shaken. This is not just talent, one whispered. This is legacy. Omoze refused shortcuts. She refused to sing words she did not understand, stories she did not feel. She insisted on songs that carried meaning, songs of struggle, of hope, of dignity. Her first major performance after marriage was not at a luxury venue. It was at a village square. Itiosa stood beside her as she faced the crowd that had once been her entire world. Faces lined with hardship stared back at her, uncertain. She has forgotten us, someone muttered. Omoze lifted the microphone, her voice steady. I am standing here because of this place, she said. Because this market fed me when nothing else did. Because your coins kept me alive. If my voice has climbed, it climbed on your shoulders. She sang that day until her throat burned. Old women cried openly. Young girls stared at her as if seeing the future for the first time. That was the day Omoze understood power. Not the power of money. The power of return. Her fame spread like wildfire. Invitations poured in from cities she had never seen, countries she had never imagined. Each performance sharpened her presence. Each song deepened her impact. And Itiosa watched carefully. He noticed something others missed. Whenever Omoze spoke passionately about something, education, children, forgotten villages, opportunities followed. Investors leaned in. Conversations shifted. Doors opened. One evening, after a charity concert, Itiosa leaned back in his chair and laughed. "You know," he said, "you don't just sing. You move markets." Omoze frowned. "I move hearts." He smiled. "And hearts move money." Together, they began to build something deliberate. Itiosa introduced her to boardrooms. Not as an ornament. Not as a performer. But as a voice. At first, the rooms were skeptical. Then she spoke. She spoke about children raised without parents. About wasted talent in forgotten villages. About how one voice, given space, could change economies. Men who had never cried in their lives wiped their eyes. Deals followed. Schools were funded. Creative hubs were built. And Itiosa's businesses grew, not because he pushed harder, but because people trusted him more. She changed him, people whispered. The truth was deeper. They sharpened each other. Omoze insisted on transparency. Itiosa insisted on scale. Where she saw people, he saw systems. Where he saw profit, she saw purpose. Together, they became unstoppable. The foundation began quietly. A single building. A few children. Omoze walked through the rooms every week, sitting on the floor, singing with them, listening to their fears. "I know how it feels," she told them. "To feel unseen. But I see you." The foundation grew into a movement. Orphanages across regions partnered with them. Education programs bloomed. Music schools emerged, free for children who could not pay. And Omoze never stopped singing. Her albums shattered expectations. Critics called her voice ancient and new at the same time. Awards followed. International stages opened. Yet she never wore excess. On global red carpets, she stood in elegant simplicity, her dark skin glowing, her voice doing the talking. One night, after a sold-out concert abroad, she sat alone in a hotel room, staring at the city lights. Itiosa found her there. "What are you thinking?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "I'm thinking of the little girl who sang to survive. I wish she could see this." "She can," he said. "You are her." Her wealth grew beyond imagination. But it never owned her. She funded hospitals. Sponsored scholarships. Rebuilt villages after disasters. Every success echoed backward to where she began. Years passed. They grew richer, yes. But more importantly, they grew rooted. One evening, at a massive benefit concert for orphan children, Omoze stood on stage, thousands of lights before her, millions watching. She did not start by singing. She spoke. "I was once told that loving what you do is dangerous," she said. "That passion does not feed you. That dreams are for children." She paused. "But I am standing here because I refused to stop singing. Even when I had nothing." The crowd erupted. She sang that night like a woman who had crossed fire and returned with water. And somewhere in the crowd, a young orphan girl sang along softly, unknowing that her future had just shifted. That was Omoze's greatest wealth. Not money. Not fame. But the proof that joy, when pursued without shame, could reshape the world. And long after the applause faded, long after the stages changed, one truth remained. Omoze never stopped being the village singer. She simply taught the world how to listen. The night Omoze found out she was pregnant, the rain did not fall gently. It crashed against the windows like an announcement. She sat on the edge of the bathroom tub, the small white stick trembling in her fingers, her breath coming in short, frightened bursts. For a woman who had stood before kings and crowds of millions, fear had never felt this quiet or this loud. Positive, she whispered. The word felt unreal in her mouth. She pressed a hand to her stomach, her eyes filling instantly. For a long moment, she did not think of wealth, or fame, or legacy. She thought of herself as a baby with no mother's arms. She thought of nights in the orphanage when cries echoed unanswered. God, she said softly, her voice breaking, if this is true, let me do it right. She walked slowly into the bedroom where Itiosa was reviewing documents on his tablet, his glasses perched low on his nose. He looked up, immediately sensing something had shifted in the air. Omoze, he asked. What is it? She stood in front of him, hands behind her back, eyes shining with unshed tears. I need you to stand up, she said. He frowned slightly but obeyed. Now sit down again, she added. He laughed nervously. You're scaring me. She held out the test. Itiosa stared at it. Once. Twice. Then his breath left him. Is this? His voice failed him. She nodded. For one suspended second, the billionaire who had negotiated deals worth billions said nothing. Then his knees buckled, and he sat hard on the bed, staring at Omoze as if she had just handed him the world. I'm going to be a father, he whispered. Tears rolled down his face freely. Omoze dropped beside him, laughing and crying at the same time as he pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. Thank you, he kept saying. Thank you. Thank you. Neither of them noticed the rain had stopped. Pregnancy softened Omoze in ways the world never saw. Her voice deepened, grew warmer. Her performances slowed, became rarer, more intentional. She sang now with her hands resting on her belly, as if sharing every note with the life growing inside her. Then the doctor cleared his throat during a routine scan. Well, he said carefully, adjusting his glasses, this is unexpected. Omoze's heart leapt into her throat. Is something wrong? No, he said quickly, smiling. Quite the opposite. Itiosa leaned forward. Doctor. You're not having one baby, the doctor said. You're having 3. Silence crashed into the room. 3. Omoze echoed faintly. Triplets. Itiosa laughed, a loud, disbelieving sound, and then promptly fainted. The news exploded like wildfire. Triplets. The village singer turned global icon, now carrying 3 lives. Omoze retreated from the public eye, not out of fear, but reverence. She wanted peace. She wanted space. She wanted to feel every moment without cameras chasing her tears. Itiosa became her shield. No interviews, he said firmly. No pressure. No stress. He attended meetings on her behalf, expanded businesses she had inspired, secured investments that aligned with their shared vision. Under his leadership, and fueled by the goodwill Omoze generated, his wealth multiplied quietly but steadily. Not greed. Alignment. During the final months, Omoze barely sang. Instead, she hummed. To her belly. To the children who kicked and rolled as if already dancing to her voice. The night the triplets were born, Itiosa prayed harder than he ever had in his life. The delivery room was tense. Hours stretched. Doctors moved quickly. Then a cry. Then another. Then a third. 3 voices. 3 lives. 3 miracles. Omoze wept as they placed the babies on her chest, 2 girls and 1 boy, tiny and perfect, their cries filling the room with a sound she had never known but somehow always longed for. Itiosa fell to his knees. My family, he whispered. They named them carefully, each name carrying meaning, strength, grace, purpose. Motherhood did not end Omoze's rise. It refined it. She returned to music slowly, deliberately, her first post-birth performance held at a benefit concert for orphaned mothers. When she stepped onto the stage, the crowd rose before she sang a single note. She sang of birth, of legacy, of love multiplied. The world listened differently now. She was no longer just a voice. She was a symbol. Ichiosa grew even richer, not just in numbers, but in influence. Government sought his counsel. Global institutions partnered with him. And wherever he went, he spoke of his wife not as an accessory, but as the compass that guided him. At my highest, he once said at a global summit, I was still incomplete. Then I married purpose. Their foundation expanded into an empire of good. Hospitals for mothers. Homes for orphans. Scholarships that spanned continents. Music academies where children learn not just to sing, but to believe. Years passed. Their children grew up surrounded by love, taught humility before privilege. Omoze sang them to sleep at night, her voice softer now, richer with experience. Sometimes, late at night, Ichiosa would find her standing by the window, looking out. What are you thinking? He'd ask. She would smile. I'm listening to the girl I used to be. She's happy. They grew old together slowly, gracefully, richly, in every sense of the word. And when people told Omoze's story, they never started with the palace or the wealth. They started with a market. With dust. With a girl who sang because silence had too much. And they ended with a truth that refused to fade. Happily ever after is not a place. It is what happens when love, purpose, and courage decide to walk the same road together. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you not to give up on your dreams, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. Share this story with someone who needs hope today, and let us know in the comments which part of Omoze's journey touched your heart the most. More emotional, inspiring African stories are coming. Thank you for watching.